Have a look at the French newspapers now. Oliver Farry is joining us here on set. Big news today, a controversial intelligence bill being voted for in the French Parliament.
Yes, a controversial bill indeed. It's going to be voted on tomorrow. The law is set to strengthen intelligence services' hands, particularly in the area of counter-terrorism, but it has raised hackles on both the left and the right. Le Figaro says that the intelligence law is moving towards a yes, but in the National Assembly. Critics complain that its powers are too far-reaching, and there's also discomfort at plans to allow an administrative commission to control surveillance procedures. So a lot of people are probably wondering whether there might actually be politically motivated surveillance. It's also likely there will be amendments made to the bill before it's passed. Le Figaro is broadly in favour of it. It says that one can only support the government's initiative. It notes that gunmen who committed massacres in recent times, particularly the Kouachi brothers who committed the Charlie Hebdo killings, were all under surveillance but nonetheless managed to carry out their crimes. Now, this new law ramping up surveillance will go some way to remedying that. It does, however, concede that some of the criticisms are valid and that the proposed law also goes beyond the fight against terrorism. It's being planned to be used against juvenile delinquency and other things, which Le Figaro says that shouldn't really be within its remit. The law should be thoroughly debated, it says, because if it gets later rejected by the Constitutional Council, it would, quote, be a disastrous sign of weakness sent by our democracy to the terrorists.
And I suspect there may be concerns for civil liberties as well against the people who are against the idea of this bill.
Absolutely. The Catholic daily Le Croix says that the law is a contested one that has mustered fears on all sides. Its front-page photograph shows demonstrators at the National Assembly last month holding signs that are a play on the Je suis Charlie slogan that was widely circulated after the Charlie Hebdo attacks. The signs say Je suis sur écoute, which means I'm being wiretapped. Le Croix says that opposition to it has come from pretty much all across the political spectrum. These include the Green Party MP Noel Mamère, the Communist CGT trade union, former head of the Business Federation MEDEF Laurence Parisot, environmental activists, and even the far-right National Front MP Marion Maréchal Le Pen. Now, the government had banked after the January attacks on bipartisan support, but the law is for the law, but that's not really assured now, with even a number of left-wing socialist MPs objecting to what they call a legalisation of surveillance hyperpowers. People also worry about the intrusive nature of the law. Le Croix's cartoon shows a protest. A police officer asks his superior, "Will I count the number of demonstrators, boss?" And the reply is, "I'll also need their names, their telephone numbers, their voicemail logins, as well as a number of their contacts."
Be interesting trying to get hold of those, wouldn't it? Now, another story in the French papers. We brought it to you in the news bulletin. France's far-right National Front Party weighing up, really, whether to gag its founder and former leader, of course, Jean-Marie Le Pen.
Yes, the free newspaper 20 Minutes or 20 Minutes carries a headline, "A man to silence Jean-Marie Le Pen." The party's executive is to meet today to decide whether to sanction Mr. Le Pen, who, of course, is the founder and the former leader. He's been speaking off the cuff recently, which is embarrassing slightly more moderate members of the party, including his daughter, the current leader, Marine. Now, she wants to stop him speaking in the party's name. Les Echos editorial reads, "Marine Le Pen, the woman who's seeing red." Now, she has been successful at detoxifying the party's image, Les Echos says. She even appeared recently at a red carpet gala in New York organised by Time magazine, which is probably as mainstream as the party has managed to get so far. Now, unfortunately, her father is an inconvenient presence. He's coming out with comments that go against this very makeover. Les Echos notes that Le Pen Sr. even upstaged his daughter at the party's May Day rally the other day by wearing, quote, an anti-system red parka. Now, Marine Le Pen wants to regain the central stage and gain complete control over the party's message.
And a third big story in the French newspapers today that we've also brought you in the news and the business. France completing the sale of 24 Rafale jets to Qatar this weekend. François Hollande, the French president, visiting there today.
Yes, and the French president will also visit Saudi Arabia this week too. Now, the pro-business daily L'Opinion says that François Hollande is the, quote, darling of the Sunni monarchy's Holy Alliance. He's the guest of honour at the Gulf Cooperation Council this week. That's a first, it says, that reflects France's strong geopolitical support for those countries. In every area, France supports the position of those incredibly wealthy countries and carefully avoids any criticism of human rights violations, hoping that its goodwill brings benefits in terms of trade. Now, that actually is already the fact. The Rafale contract is worth 6.3 billion euros. So France clearly feels it's within its interests to cozy up to the Gulf states. France has clearly chosen its camp, L'Opinion says, the Sunni monarchies instead of Iran, and it has taken a notably hard line in nuclear negotiations with Tehran. L'Opinion contrasts the good relationship between Paris and the Gulf states to the very strange one between those countries and Barack Obama, who has successively disappointed the Gulf leaders with his pullback from airstrikes against the Assad regime in Syria, his criticism of the coup d'etat in Egypt, and his rapprochement with Iran. Nothing of the sort to fear from their friend Francois, sums up L'Opinion. And he's also unlikely to ruffle the feathers of Saudi Arabia, unlike Sweden's Foreign Minister Margot Wallström, who recently criticised the country's human rights record.
Thanks, Oliver. And of course, we'll bring you more coverage of Francois Hollande in Doha a little bit later on the programme. Now,